I want to talk about the cabinet, the incoming cabinet. We're heading into the thick of confirmation hearings soon. Francesca, who is the cabinet pick right now who's in the most danger of not getting confirmed?
So this is not going to be that exciting, but everything basically remains the same as it did before we went away.
Okay, you're right. That's not
break.
exciting.
I'm sorry. I know.
Let's move on to sports.
No, but I mean, realistically, that's what happened, right? You had the questions about Pete Hegseth going into the winter break. I mean, the Senate, the House, they've been out for a little bit the last couple weeks. Of course, there's
no
been
new
questions
information
about Kash
record.
Patel. There have been questions about, of course, about Kash Patel and the FBI as well. But now, the Trump team is making this argument in light of the terrorist attack in New Orleans that they need his national security nominees. They need them right away. And so they've been making this really big push to try and get them confirmed before or rather the week of when he takes office. Now, this is key because that is where the most contentious fights are going to be, is over his national security nominees. And so now, though, you can expect the Senate to try and take those up first, earlier, in terms of who's the most in danger. It also depends on, do they do these on the same day? Do they split these up into different days? They want to get them in on January 20th. Is that even possible
Shock
to get
and
that
awe.
many in?
Just do it all at once. Flood the zone.
I mean, that could be a strategy that they employ. They have not announced yet, other than Pete Hegseth on the 14th, when those will be. They have to give 7 days notice, so we should know by Monday or Tuesday if they plan to have any other ones earlier in the week.
David, let me reframe the question. Any of these nominees in danger from your perspective?
So I would think Tulsi Gabbard as Director of National Intelligence is very unlikely.
Unlikely.
Yes, I think
What are you hearing on the Hill?
I think the Senate Intelligence Committee is taking a very careful look. I think they've got a lot of material to look at. I think there are significant questions, concerns people have about her. I think Bashar al-Assad, the person she went to pay court to, getting deposed in Syria, doesn't help her nomination. So I'd be surprised if she got through. I think Pete Hegseth's nomination is going to be difficult. It's striking after the New Orleans terrorist attack, which we're going to talk about, how we all turn to the FBI, the CIA, our national security institutions. We need them, and people feel that deeply. And I'd be surprised if there isn't a deeper discussion in the Senate about these nominees. It really matters who's head of the Pentagon. It's the hardest management job in government. Is Pete Hegseth really ready to do that?
Right.
Is Kash Patel really ready to lead an FBI, which we're going to need desperately to deal with counterterrorism issues? So I'd be amazed if the Senate didn't really take those issues up.
Right. Peter, any chance from your perspective that Kash Patel doesn't get through because people realize that, oh, you know what? Maybe we need somebody with a broad investigative and anti-terrorism experience.
I mean, chance, yes. It's a question of whether Trump does have the ability to discipline and impose his will on the Senate. Now, the Senate is different than the House, right? You have individuals there who won't be running again while Donald Trump is president. They have 6-year terms. They have a little bit more sense of independence and a sense of their own importance. And so there are opportunities, I think, for picking off 3, 4 possibly members that would say, no, this is too much. Kash Patel may be a fine political hatchet man, but putting him in charge of the nation's premier law enforcement agency at a time when 15 people are being run down in New Orleans may not be the best idea. Yeah. But they're not going to say that right away. They're going to see how these hearings play out.
Leanne, RFK Jr. in any danger?
So I get a lot of mixed responses from Republican senators about RFK Jr. I ask these senators to rank who's in the most trouble. And some say RFK is at the top of their list. Others say that he's going to be totally fine. So it's really hard to tell. But I will say one of the challenges for RFK Jr. is not about his, vaccine skepticism or his unorthodox views on health. It's from Republicans, the abortion issue.
Right.
And so he, I am told, has been asked a lot of questions in his private meetings about the issue of abortion and what he's going to do about that, running these health agencies. And I am told that his response is that he will do what Donald Trump's will is. But what's important with not only RFK Jr., but all of these nominees is there's going to be public hearings. And every single senator is going to have to make a public determination in large part based on these hearings and how the public responds to those too. These nominees could totally bomb in these hearings, or they could just pass through with flying colors.
And Peter, and you brought up the 6-year terms, but there are a few key senators who will be up in 2026, such as Susan Collins, who has announced that she plans to run for re-election, and she is someone who we all have our eye on to determine how she might vote. So some of the people won't necessarily be there for the next 6 years. But as you were talking about, Leanne, about the hearings, I mean, that's what I was hearing from senators as well. They really, even the Republicans, they take their advise and consent role very seriously, even if they are inclined, the Republicans, to end up approving Donald Trump's cabinet nominees. They do want to see the hearings. They do want to ask questions. And then, you know, even some of the people who've called holdouts so far might end up coming around to his side, but they're not going to do that. We're not going to hear how Republicans plan to vote until after these hearings have taken place.
Don't forget that the Republican caucus in secret voted against Trump's desire to have Senator Thune as the majority leader. That was a significant statement, I think, by Senate Republicans.
Yeah.
But in secret.
In secret.
True, in secret, but they did it.
And in secret, they probably would vote. They would probably vote not to have Trump as president after January 6th either. But that would be in
But I think
secret.
David's point and Leanne's point is right about Gabbard and RFK Jr. Because they're both Democrats or were Democrats or whatever they are now, that gives a slightly different lane for Republicans to say, no, I can't go along with that.
Right.
They're not one of us.
Let me talk about New Orleans. David, what does this attack, this deadly attack, say to you about the nature of the ISIS threat to America?
So ISIS continues as an idea. I've walked the streets of Raqqa, the ISIS capital in Syria. It was obliterated. It looked like Gaza. Every building had been destroyed, damaged. There was really nothing left in the center of town. So that enormous military power was brought to bear against ISIS. But you can't destroy an idea. And the ISIS idea remains powerful online. I'm told that ISIS's influence in Africa is increasing. An ISIS spinoff, ISIS-K, that came out of Afghanistan, attacked Iran, killed scores of people in Iran, attacked Russia, killed scores of people in Russia. So what I hear from counterterrorism professionals is this sense that the inspired, homegrown, violent extremist, which is what Shamsuddin Jabbar is. There's no evidence of a connection other than virtually online to a network. Those people can do enormous damage. The technique that he used, of vehicle ramming, the head of the National Center for Counterterrorism was talking about that 2 months ago. Nobody paid any attention.
It's a more common technique in the Middle East than it is here.
In Europe,
yeah.
Anyway, so the problem is there. It's different, but the problem is you can't kill an idea.
Right. I want to remind everyone around the table of Trump's confidence, President-elect Trump's confidence that he had defeated the Islamic State. Well, let's listen to this for 1 second.
I defeated 100% of the ISIS caliphate. Everyone said that couldn't be done, and I did it in a matter of weeks. All of the presidents before me failed. For 20 years, I defeated ISIS in just a matter of weeks.
Yeah, so that's a lot of confidence. That's in 2023. That's a lot of confidence. Peter, talk about what they actually can do, especially as it relates to the defeat of an idea.
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, if he's talking about defeating the caliphate, you know, the territorial control that ISIS had in Syria and Iraq, he can claim, obviously, some credit there. Obviously, they do not control what they did 8 years ago. But as David just said, I mean, that doesn't mean that they've gone away or people like them. And I think that it's one of these things where America has gotten a little contented that we haven't faced this at home in a while. It's been 23 years now since 9/11. We thought that we would be seeing this all the time. We really didn't, and we especially haven't seen it in the last number of 8-10 years here at home. And so it only takes one guy, one, radicalized guy, to suddenly pick up a truck, and it's really hard to defeat that. So the intelligence networks have done a remarkable job of of actually finding plenty of plots and stopping them in advance. But are you going to be able to be 100% successful all the time? That's
And Leanne, quickly, do you see any sense yet from the president-elect's transition team that they have answers for homegrown but foreign-inspired terrorism? Or is this something that they've even been talking about before this New Orleans attack?
They're still mostly blaming this attack on people crossing the border.
Which this was not.
Which this was not. And so, no, there is no indication of that. They are placing all the blame on President Biden, unable to keep the country safe. The borders are open. And so, no, we have not heard much from the transition.
It's interesting because you really do set yourself up as president if you promise the level of security that Trump is promising.
So, an interesting problem for the FBI depends on cooperation from the Muslim communities in America. You know, the sheikh in the mosque who says, so-and-so's been acting strange recently. Those people have been cooperating since 9/11. It's one reason that there's been relatively, limited domestic terrorism. You can see, you saw in the vote in Michigan, the anger that is in the Muslim communities in America now. Gaza has changed the way people feel. A counterterrorism official said to me, Gaza put a jolt into the jihadist movement that's going to last for a generation. Mm-hmm. That anger is going to persist. And if you're the FBI trying to get that sheikh in Detroit to tell you who's acting strange, it's going to be much harder now. And that's Trump's problem.
Right. And we're gonna see in the coming days and weeks the degree to which the Trump administration wants to focus on the FBI's alleged sins against Trump versus this whole range of national security and criminal threats. But after January 20th, we might have a better sense of it. Unfortunately, we do need to leave it there for now.